Remi, thank you for taking the time. I know you are incredibly busy. And I want to give some, well, you're my first Spartan
Woo, go
on the
green.
podcast, so go white. So I think people are going to learn a lot from this conversation, both, can apply things to sports, to their career professionally. I want to offer some background first. So graduated from Michigan State in
hmm
2019. We were actually classmates, had a class together, so that's how I kind of got to know you.
hmm
After Michigan State, you moved to the Texoma area and covered sports down there, and now you're in West Michigan
hmm
at Fox 17. But and you like to golf, and it
Yes.
seems like you work a lot. Do you ever get a chance to unwind?
I have been very good, or tried to be very good about that in the last probably almost 2 years. So the first 2 years of my career, I was the sports reporter at my station in Texoma, and so I was working weekends, working really long hours, which is kind of what I do now. But again, it was like my first job out of college, and I was always very go go go. I still am, but I didn't know how to unwind. I didn't know how to like really utilize my off days and kind of just relax and do things that I wanted to do. And there were a culmination of things that happened, but in like, I think it was August of 2020, and it didn't really have anything to do with the pandemic because I still worked through the pandemic. Um, but my mental health got to a point where I just needed to start seeing a therapist to just talk through some stuff and learn about why I was like having a lot of anxiety towards a lot of different things. A lot of them had to do with work. And so my therapist and I, God bless her, really worked on those things. And that was where I learned how to take time off and how to like unwind. And so that third year I worked in Texoma, I became the sports director. And while I had taken on more responsibility and I loved it, I also, because of that, really had to dedicate myself to taking time off. And so one of the things I would do, I would go through on Sundays, and I mean, I would hang out with my friends on Saturdays, play golf, or like do whatever. But then Sundays, I had to work. I had to like plan our weekly schedule, but I would set a timer on my phone for an hour or 45 minutes. And whatever I can get done in that amount of time is good. And it's a good base. And it's like the foundation for what the week was going to look like. And if I didn't get to something, like obviously I would prioritize too what I really needed to get done on that hour. And then if something didn't get done in that time, I did it on Monday when I got to work. And that was a really good way for me to prioritize that. And in fact, my phone, maybe I turned it off. No, it's still on personal do not disturb.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's only for when I'm off, which I was off yesterday and the day before. So I get texts that come through, phone calls, certain notifications, but all like Twitter and Facebook and all of that kind of stuff, I have to purposely go to find those notifications because I found that even if it was something I was like interested in, like I was checking the score of a game, then I was scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and I wasn't actually enjoying my time off and kind of taking a step back from work. So I know it was kind of a long
Busy.
answer, but that's really kind of been where I started versus where I am now, and as far as taking time off and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that was a great answer. And it was actually something I was going to get into a little bit later, the social media part, but I think kind of led us here early is your job requires social media. Like you can't take maybe I was going to say a week off. You can't even take a day off of social media. That's something that I'm actually trying to do right now and that I've successfully done, I think, in the past few months is being able to step away. Where how do you balance the like I guess how's the algorithm first of all? Like where's your what's your timeline or for you page looking like? Like is it at a place where you can consume content because it's in a place that you want it to be, or do you have to step away sometimes and only like maybe kind of restrict yourself and say, hey, this is I need this for work, that's what I'm gonna do, and then once I'm done I'm hopping off.
Yeah, so I have it kind of set two different ways, I guess. My TikTok specifically is completely fun. I posted like I think last year I did a day in my life video or whatever. Because at one point I was like, maybe I'll do some stuff for work. But I just was like, I can't. I cannot simply add another thing to my plate because, yes, I'm a journalist, like I'm a reporter and I anchor the weekend shows, but people are always really shocked to find out I film all my clips. I do all my interviews. I edit every video. I write every web article. I write every tweet and every Facebook post. I update our website. I'm doing like all of these things. So it's not just like I'm a talking head on TV. I have anywhere like 4 to 5 other responsibility or job titles, I guess you could say, that I'm in charge of on a daily basis. So my TikTok is really strictly for fun. I'm on Water Talk right now. There's a lot of, actually this morning, it's not funny, but my boyfriend and where I used to live is in Oklahoma, and they got hit pretty bad with tornadoes last night. So I'm seeing a lot of like tornado video, which is really fascinating to me, especially because I used to live down there. But also like cheerleading. I was a cheerleader for a long time, so I see a lot of that, and just like fun influencer, like beautiful people kind of day in my life things that really that is separate from my work. But yeah, I mean, again, because I think of like the personal do not disturb and my therapy, setting boundaries for myself as far as work stuff goes on social media. If I'm off, I mean, I can't say I'm not on my phone and I'm not on social media, because I am. It's just whether I'm looking for fun or I'm looking for work, I'm on it periodically. But the personal do not disturb has been so crucial for me. But also, I don't personally feel like I have to be retweeting a game, like a box score that one of our teams posts when I'm not working, or trade news or something about the draft. I don't know, like my boss is working, and so I feel like it's his responsibility to be kind of covering that stuff. And so if somebody needs to see it, like he'll post about it, and I can kind of then pick back up again when I get back to work. And I know that's a little, or it's probably very different from what a lot of people do, but I simply, like, for my mental health and just to be able to step away and feel like my off days are actually off days for me, I have really had to force myself to do that. And I'm not perfect at it. There are times where I'm still retweeting things or sharing things, especially if it's like local for us. But I feel like that has been really, really important for me in the last, like 2 years, probably 3 years.
Yeah, that's super important. I think there's a lot of like really good tips in there that I think I'm going to take, because I've not utilized the do not disturb to the best of its abilities. I feel like it's so black and white for me. It's either on your phone or not. And I think there's a balance there. Like you can find a balance. There are certain notifications you can take. I don't necessarily have to completely shut it off or put it in another room.
The full do not disturb almost scares me a little bit. And I'm like, but I have, like, what if my mom calls me and something happens, or, like what if something is an emergency, not even with work, but like my family or friends or whatever. So the personal do not disturb is like too far over the line for me, but the personal do not disturb, because I can pick and choose what notifications I can see, like kind of right here on my screen. And then if I want to, I can go back in and, filter through like the tweets or the Facebook post or like whatever that looks like. So
100%. Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to take some notes. When I rewatch this, I want to get into your kind of journey to where you are now. And I think that really starts with the amount of internships that you had. Those kind of stand out once I kind of did the research and looked back. I think it goes back to just saying, you had a lot of responsibilities in college and in your summers. You probably didn't have a normal summer as a college student. And I think that just goes to the saying, it's like saying yes to everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you want something, you kind of just say yes to it. Even maybe if you don't want to do it, or maybe it's something you really want to do, just kind of immersing yourself in whatever task is thrown your way. Is that the mentality you took throughout your college career?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I was kind of born and raised that way. Like I started working when I was 14. Before, I was like a babysitter or whatever, but that doesn't like officially count. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Um, but I was a caddy at a golf course when I was 14, and so that's how I really got into golf. And I had never played golf before, but I caddied for 4 years, and then I worked in the pro shop. So I always was very active, very busy. But I knew I wanted to work in TV since I was in like seventh grade, which I'm very fortunate, and I feel like I am the minority in that situation. There are so many people who don't know what they want to do even when they graduate college, which is perfectly acceptable. Again, I am the anomaly in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
But so because I knew that, I was very steadfast on what I wanted and how I wanted to get there. So working like throughout school, I had 5 different internships, I think. I started working for BTN Student U at Michigan State, which broadcasts a countless amount of different games and different teams throughout the school year. And I did everything behind the scenes. I had all the on-air work as well. And then I was writing for publications and stuff here and there just because I was a journalism major and wanting to get more, I guess, like print stuff under my belt, but also knew I wanted to be in broadcast. So then after my sophomore year, I moved to Pittsburgh and worked for the Pittsburgh Penguins. That was 2017 when they went back to back and won the Stanley Cup, which was incredible. And I'll say about that experience that that summer I was a social media intern, and I didn't really know. I mean, I ran my own social media. I didn't run professionally accounts for any team or any person or anything like that, but I knew I wanted to work in some capacity in professional sports. And I remember writing like in my cover letter that I don't have experience working with professional teams, but this would be the way to get into that. And I needed somebody to take a chance on me. And so luckily they did. Shout out to the team at the Penguins, who I love so much, because they really catapulted me into that space. And now I really enjoy social media. And I feel like if I ever got out of TV, I would be doing the social media stuff for a team or a college or whatever that looks like. Came back to school. Did I have? I can't remember. I don't think I had an internship like that school year, but then the next summer I went to DC and I worked for DC United, which again was very different. First off, I played soccer when I was like 8, but I didn't grow up playing soccer. So that was new for me. But I was doing specifically video production. So creating like highlight reels, hype videos. We also had to do kind of like the generic in-game stuff that's kind of boring, but you see like on the video screen when you walk into an arena. I was doing all of that. And that was what I knew was going to get me to where I wanted to be, because I knew I was going to need to be able to cut more video in a very, very fast pace. And so that was what I was really looking forward to. That summer was so much fun. The Caps actually won the Stanley Cup that year. And so my joke was that wherever I went, that like the teams were winning the Stanley Cup, which almost was also true in 2019 because the Stars were in the Cup in 2019, but didn't win. So that would have been very fun and very ironic, but it didn't happen. But yeah, so, and then came back. I interned at a local TV station in Lansing because, again, I knew that was what I was going into right after I graduated. And if there's one thing about me, I'll be prepared. I'm going to have my ducks in a row. My mom always taught me proper planning prevents poor performance. And so if I knew I was going to work at a TV station, or that's what I wanted to see what they did on a daily basis and for multiple, like through all the seasons and all that kind of stuff. And so I really learned what was expected. But I will say, when I got my first job, full-time job, and I was like working on my own, I also had no freaking clue what the hell I was doing. Like, it's so funny because I had all these experiences and internships and school. Like, Michigan State's a great journalism school. But, like, I had no idea how to build a rundown. No idea. No idea what I was doing. No idea, like, how to stack a show or, like, what I should put in a show. Because that comes with experience, I felt like. And I was almost disappointed in myself. Like, the first 3 or 4 months probably I worked at K10 because I was like, I have all this experience. I worked my butt off in college. Why can't I figure this out? Or like, why does it seem so hard? And I don't remember if it was like a family friend or my parents or somebody was like, you don't know until you're in it. Like, you can't expect to know everything until you're doing it full time. And that comes with anything. So I think that's a really big piece of advice for anybody in any field that you're going into or that you're starting or whatever. Like, you can have high expectations for yourself, but also you can't be shocked when you're still learning and still growing and trying to like take pieces from what you've learned and apply them to real life. And so just give yourself a little bit of grace when it comes to that.
Yeah, there's so many ways, directions we can go off of all that. And I think first is, I think as I move through life, I do notice that there's kind of a direct correlation between how prepared I am and how nervous I am.
Mm-hmm.
And the more nervous I feel, maybe because I didn't prepare as much as I could have. And to your last point, even with this, it's if I waited to start this until I felt like I knew everything, I would have never gotten this off the ground. Never would have gotten this off the ground. So
No.
one thing that's admirable that I want to get your kind of take on is you were willing to, to go to Pittsburgh. You were willing to go to DC. You were willing to move to, Texoma and now West Michigan. It's like, why? How? Like, how do you have I guess, really, I mean, I don't know, the word that comes to me when I think of being able to move is just courage. That's something that I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about. Yeah, I'd love to try to move to, San Diego for some, appeals to me. But I don't know if I have the courage to do that because I don't, and that's one thing that I see with you is being able to do that. Where does that come from? How do you have I don't know, I guess maybe courage to do that?
It's funny that you say courage, that's very kind and very flattering. I've never thought of myself that way. But I will say I've always been this way. Like, I've always, if there's a plan and I get an idea in my head, I'm like, full steam ahead. We are going. I don't care what it takes. We're going to plan and we're going to make it happen. And so that's kind of how it's always been. If anything, it's more of like when those moves happen or when these really big things happen, it's the logistics of the moving that like scare me more. It's like, how am I going to fit my whole life or like all of my belongings into a couple suitcases and move across the country? Which sucks. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that part is not fun. Mm-hmm. But I think about it in a way of like, what am I gonna gain from this experience? And the nervousness or the like, all the emotions I'm feeling right now are not going to outweigh the experiences and the like memories that I'm gonna take away from this experience. So, I also think we had a lot of great professors at MSU that were like, hi, if you plan to be in TV, you better be prepared to move across the country. I'm sure it was Joanne in LA that told us that, and pretty young, like freshman or sophomore year. And so I just always had it in my head that if I wanted to work specifically in local news, not everybody has to do this, but I was going to have to be willing to move. And so when it did come time for me to graduate and I was like applying for jobs and interviewing and stuff, the two offers that I had were one was Texoma, which is a like 16-hour drive from where I was living at the time. And then the other one was Montana. So both very far. I had applied to stations that were like closer to Michigan, but also I hate, and it's hilarious because now I live back here, but I hate the winter. So living down south was like great for me. That was like appealing for me also. But yeah, and it's not, I don't want to sit here and say like I was never sad to leave or like homesick or anything. I vividly remember, because I drove to Pittsburgh. My dad drove me to Pittsburgh. But then I had to fly to DC because I didn't take my car that summer. And I remember like almost sobbing hysterically like I remember thinking like, you have to shut the frick up because the woman next to you is going to think that you're like insane and they're gonna have to like ground the plane or something ridiculous. Like, but I cried because I was scared. But I also, like, my boyfriend at the time was living in Michigan. Obviously, my family was, and I just was like, do I want to do this again? Because I had lived in Pittsburgh the past summer. But I don't regret it at all. I made like the most amazing friends. I had great roommates. I watched a team open up a brand new stadium, which there are not many people in the entire history of their careers working in sports that get to do that. And I did it as a 19-year-old or 20-year-old, which was really incredible. And I'm very grateful for that. So, yeah, it doesn't mean I'm not scared. I just think that, again, the outcome of what I'm going to get in return significantly outweighs any feelings of like nervousness or being scared when it comes to those moves.
Yeah, that's so important. And there's someone, not even someone, there's a lot of people right now who are contemplating big moves. If you had the chance to talk to them and tell them, a piece of advice, what would it be?
Plan now, like start kind of planning a little things. Like, realistically, I'll probably be moving again here in the next couple of years. And like, I'm looking at my dresser right now and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to take that dresser. It's been through college with me and I've now been out of college for 4 years and it's a little dinged up. So I probably would either sell this or, scrap it, put it at the curb and just, buy a new one wherever I go. So I think just having an idea of what you're taking with you, what you're able to do. And that also means like start putting money aside right now. Especially if you're a big move, like you're U-hauling it across the country, not just, even if it's a couple hours away, that still is, costly. But I just feel like you have to be more excited about the opportunity and like the chance that you're going to get to go do whatever it is. And truly also, I feel like, and I've also learned this, if you aren't that excited while you're doing those things, that's a red flag. You should be, oh yeah. Like if, you're in the middle of like packing up your entire life and like putting it in a U-Haul. And if you're not like almost have butterflies in your stomach of like, but I can't wait till I get there and I start this job and like, it's going to be so fun. You need to call timeout and you need to halt the brakes and say, whoa, what am I doing? Because again, I guess it's maybe a little different if you're just like moving to a new apartment in the same city or maybe like across town. But when you are packing up your whole life and moving it across the country, you better be damn sure that that's what you want. Because if not, you're taking a big chance and hoping something's going to happen. Not to say that it can't, but in my experience, you should be 150% sure and excited that that is what you want, because if not, it's not going to turn out well for you.
Is there room for nerves, for fear, right? Like, one thing I keep coming back to is there's been a lot of, like, self-reflection over the last few months for me, and the two words that keep coming to mind are, like, butterfly effect, right? Like, what you do, like, the next words that come out of my mouth will, like, influence the rest of my life. Like, that's such a crazy thing to think about. And sometimes I drive myself like I'm so worried to like take a sip of water, because I'm like, oh, how would my life be any different if I didn't take that sip of water? But there's got to be room for some nerves, right? For some fear.
Absolutely.
Change.
I think anybody who doesn't have room for fear, like something's wrong with you a little bit. But it's like, is that fear, and I always talk about it this way too, is that fear or that nervousness, does it feel like the first day of school nerves, or like you're going on a first date and like you really like them but you're not sure if they like you back, like that excited nerves? Or is it existential dread fear nerves? Because those are two very different things. And not to say that one is better than the other or right or wrong or whatever that looks like, but knowing and like how you feel in that situation, knowing what those two feel like and what they mean for you is very important. I don't really know if that's answering your question necessarily, but yes, there is always room for fear.
For sure. Michigan State. a place that means like the world to
Literally. Oh my
you and
god.
I.
Yeah.
Um, it's tough to quantify or put into words really what Michigan State means to even me. Like I'll meet people or you know even like past girlfriends. It's like I try to explain it, but I can't, and I don't think people don't necessarily understand. I think people who have maybe been to maybe some of the bigger schools get it,
Hmm.
but those who didn't don't necessarily. Why do you think we carry so much pride for our alma mater?
I think it's just kind of ingrained in us in a certain way. Like I did not grow up a state fan. I grew up a Michigan fan, which feels illegal to say. There's pictures of me wearing maize and blue, but my cousin went to state, and she's 5 years older than me. So when she was like getting accepted, I was in like seventh, eighth grade, and then up through my high school was when she was in college. And so I feel like it just kind of rubs off on you in this very almost casual way. It doesn't feel like a cult. Like it doesn't feel like you have to like this, you know what? Like I think you
Mhm.
just very naturally fall in love with the school and the people and the campus and everything that comes with it. And um I can't imagine. I almost went to the University of Alabama. I don't know if a lot of people know that. I tell people, but that was my goal for a very very long time because I cheered and their cheer program's very good and obviously their football program's great. So I wanted to cheer at Alabama, and then cliche like I had an injury, whatever. I did. I had hip reconstructive surgery when I was 16, and that kind of really put a damper on it. So my goals switched, but then like I can't imagine being at Alabama if that like I don't know that I would have liked it. I don't know that I would have fit in or would have found. I think I probably would have ended up transferring. And so to have said that I graduated from Michigan State makes me immensely proud. And anytime I see a fellow Spartan, obviously it's a little more common here because I live in Michigan now, but on occasion I would come across like a Sparty sticker on a car when I lived in Texoma, and I would like almost break down in tears. I'd be like, go green, like, and I wish. It's so frustrating. You know how like other schools have like a gun, you know, like a symbol or whatever, or
Mhm.
like Oklahoma. I'm using Oklahoma things because I used to live there, but we don't have like an like. How do we make like an? I don't know.
Yes, no, I get what you
I
mean.
wish
I
we
get what you
had
mean.
something that like when we were driving in a car, I could just like hold up my fingers, and I don't know,
Mhm.
like I don't know what that is. I don't think it will ever happen. I don't know, but I just was. It was really fun to see, and like again, I'm very proud to say I went to Michigan State. Especially, I feel like even in the wake of what happened when we were in school, because the Larry Nasser trial and that whole case was very prevalent when we were in college. And obviously, now with the shooting that happened in February, I'm still very proud to say I went to Michigan State and very proud of our alumni and the people I went to school with, not only in the journalism school, but you know, everybody who went to school with us and who is now still in school. And I hope that anybody who is thinking about going to state is really considering it, because it's a great place to be. I love it.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I think that situation kind of hit close to home for a lot of people, a lot of alumni and fans, and there's a couple of Spartans that go to the gym that I work out at,
Mm.
and I'd never talked to them until the shooting, and now it's we say hi to each other every day, and we were able to talk about something pretty heavy in a important situation, but through that, I think it just kind of shows how strong the community was and is and will be moving forward. So now I don't talk to those Spartans no, my fellow Spartans every day at the gym, but I definitely do wave to them. And
Yeah, right. Say hi, you know. Yeah, right. I know too. Um I was in a sorority at Michigan State. I was in Sigma Kappa. And I am now an advisor for the chapter here at Grand Valley, which is closer, you know, to where I live right now. But a lot of us also work with the chapter at Michigan State. And after that shooting, I went to the house just to kind of support some of our women. And a couple of them were in the union when that happened in February. And it was very traumatic for them. And they're still working through a lot of stuff. But we were just finding ways to help our sisters. And I actually now am on the executive advisory board at Michigan State too. So it's like, I feel like a lot of us were just trying to find ways to help. And, you know, we were like, what can we do? What do you need from us? What do you need? Money? Do you need hands? Do you need love? Like, what does that look like? And so now I'm also helping my sisters at Alpha Tau, which is the chapter name at Michigan State. So I'm excited to be doing that and taking on a little bit more responsibility with them and just, again, helping our Spartans in any way I can.
Professionally, how do you think your professional career would have been different if it weren't for Michigan State? The experiences, the professors, the advice, wisdom from classmates. I keep going back to Joe Grimm, and I got thrown into Mason, Michigan.
I had to go to Williamston. It was awful.
I never would have gone to Mason in my life if it weren't for Joe Grimm. And every time I'm stuck, or every time I feel like I'm stuck, I always go back to, well, I'll tell Joe that I don't belong here, I don't fit in. I can't. How am I supposed to get people on the street to talk to me? And then I did it. And so now when I feel stuck, I think of like Mason, Michigan. That just pops up in my head. Like I did it. And it seems like such a small feat for a lot of people. Like, okay, you just had to go like interview people, but it took like a lot of personal traits to develop to be able to do that. How would your professional career be different if it weren't for Michigan State, you think?
I think it would be different in a lot of ways, but I don't want to like put down any other school, big or small, because I've seen a lot of incredible journalists come from really small schools. Also, a lot of really like schools that are like the Cronkite School of Journalism, for example. You know what I mean? Like there's more notable programs than ours, but I feel like we had really great professors that had and have real world experience. And so it wasn't just like, oh, you're gonna do this. Like it was, this is literally what I did last week for my job and you guys are gonna do the same. So here you go, you know? And so I think, yeah, Joe freaking Grimm, God, I hate, like, I'm okay with him now, but when I was in that class, he was like my worst enemy. I don't know what it was. I just was like, why can't I do well? And I did fine in his class, but I just didn't. Same thing. I had to go to Williamston. No shade against Williamston. Go Hornets. But like, and when for you guys who don't know, like East Lansing or Mid Michigan, Williamston and Mason, it's not like you're walking out to Times Square and there's people everywhere. Like these are kind of rural in a way, small towns in Mid Michigan where there's probably a couple shops. There's a restaurant like on the main street. Maybe there's a barbershop. And a church. And so like on a Tuesday at 3 p.m., you're trying to go out there and find somebody who's going to talk about like the bond proposal for the high school or like whatever the freaking thing is. And it's very difficult, but that's true life journalism. That's like that's, well, not necessarily what I do because I work in sports, but that's what people do on a daily basis is just going and doing people on the street interviews. So I think, again, just the experience we got, and the connections we made with people. Like I have talked to people all over the country, not even that I went to school with, that are older than me or that are now younger than me, about working in the or going to school in the Journal program, and just like the connection we all have with each other. It's like, hey, do you need something? What can I do? Do you need to, like, I know so-and-so who works over here and you're trying to get into that company. Do you want me to put on a good word for you? Do you want me to send them an email? Do you want me to like pass on your phone number? Blah, blah, blah. Like we're all very willing to do that for each other. And so Again, it's not that you can't get that experience anywhere else, because you can, but I just feel like the journalism program specifically at state, we're so close knit because there aren't that many of us. Like, I don't know the population of the journal program at state, but it's pretty small. It's maybe a couple hundred kids. So we all know each other like pretty closely. And yeah, I think just that closeness really benefits you in a lot of ways.
I want to know some misconceptions about sports reporting, about your day to day that people don't know, because we see, I think, is
How long we
funny
got, Tito? Because I could go
oh,
on.
all day. I mean, what are some of those misconceptions? Because I think even until I was in the Journ program, yeah, I mean, it just looked like, you never see behind the camera, so you think, okay, well, there's got to be multiple people working, right? But you're carrying your equipment. You're, like, you are doing a lot more than what it looks like. So that's kind of a misconception that I had. What are some others?
I think also you have to think about it the way, specifically for local news right now, working at a TV station. What we do now is significantly different than how they did it 5 years ago. Which is kind of crazy because I'm like, next year will be 5 years in the industry for me. But really, how they did it like 10, 15 years ago. 15 years ago, Twitter wasn't a thing. Facebook maybe was, but people were posting for fun. So reporters were not thinking about, oh, what do I need to post on social media today to make my story known? Or, like, what do I need to be sharing for people to know? The only way somebody was going to get news was if they watched it at 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. That's it. Or if they, like, were reading the newspaper or listening to the radio. Obviously now anybody can go on Twitter or open up, like, the NBC News app and see what they're reading, or, see what's going on. So the world in which we work in is significantly different. Let's start with, people think that I always get my hair and makeup done. Y'all got jokes, because this is all myself. Thank you so much, though, that you think I'm a professional to look like this. People think my clothes are paid for, or we have like a revolving door of like stylists and clothes that come in. No, again, all of that's paid for, or paid for by myself. People think we make a lot of money. No. My first job in TV, I made $25,000 a year. And that was in 2019. Now, luckily, I was, and I still am, because I will never not be, an hourly employee. And so I get overtime. I think my first year I made almost $5,000 in overtime, which really, really helped me. Granted, where I was living, cost of living is significantly cheaper than even where I'm living now, or a lot of big cities, because it was pretty rural. So I was able to factor that in, but I was still living, I still am living paycheck to paycheck, just because of the industry that we work in. So yeah, people think we get paid a lot of money. But like I mentioned earlier, people think I'm just a talking head and I go out and like interview people and I've got a camera person with me and all this stuff. No, nope. I go and I run sidelines. I'm running, to and from ball fields. I'm driving everywhere myself. In fact, I got in a car crash in December in a work vehicle because of the snow. That was not fun. But all of that is me. Occasionally we will get help from one of my best friends at my station. She helps run our website, and she also used to work in sports. So here and there, when she can, she helps us out, which is so, like, you would not believe how much work that takes off of us when she helps us out. But if you see a tweet from me, it's coming right from me, or from like our sports account. All of that stuff. I have to write the web story. I have to post it. I have to make sure it's like on the right place on our website, because it doesn't just automatically do that. I cut all the video, I edit it all, I doing the research also for the stories. Like, I'm going down to Kalamazoo College today for baseball, and I'm having to look up information on the players and their record and all of that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, a lot of people just think, oh, you get to just talk about sports. I do, but also, like, I'm literally running around like a chicken with my head cut off some days, most days. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a level of that research, that background that you have to do, because I think your questions and your conversation is only as insightful as you make it, and they have been insightful and impactful because of the research and knowledge that you have prior to interviews or prior to going on air. I think you're gonna offer a pretty cool perspective. I've had athletes on the show, but you see things not differently, but you see things from kind of a different lens. What can you say about like especially, and I want to focus on like the amateur athlete, the high school, the college, since you've covered those sports. You see like the raw emotion, the passion behind these athletes. Like, you talk to these athletes after a tough loss, or the elation after a conference championship, a regional championship, or something like that. So, you're in the locker rooms. You see them. You might be the first one they talk to once they get off the field. After a loss. What can you say about the passion that these athletes carry, even at the stages of high school, right? The early years.
Yeah, I'll say first off, I love covering high school. And that's something for me that I always want to be able to do no matter where I work, because I think high school sports are so influential. And obviously you wouldn't be making it to college if you weren't playing high school or playing, at that level. And I also think for me as a journalist, there's a certain level of closeness a lot of times I can get to high school players and coaches that I can't get at the college level. A lot of times I can call a high school coach, like a couple hours before their practice and be like, hey, can I come out to practice and do some interviews today? And they're like, yeah, sure, come on out, And the relationship there that I can create with them really gives me a lot of joy. And I'm also a people person, so maybe that's it too, but like, I like to know, what my coaches are doing. Like, hey, how are your kids? How's your wife? I saw you posted that you went on a trip last week to Florida. How was it? Like, I enjoy learning and learning about them outside of who they are as a coach or who they are as a player. In fact, like, it's a college kid, but I was at Western's spring game on Saturday, and one of their staff came up to us and we were chit-chatting, and somebody brought up the coach's shoes, and I didn't actually see them until later, but the staff member was like, oh yeah, well, one of our players makes them, like, designs shoes and painted them for Coach Taylor. And I was like, wait, what? That's so cool. And so it's stuff like that I wouldn't have been able to know about if it weren't for my job and just like the stuff outside of sports that these kids are doing. So I think seeing that has been really fun for me, but also, like you said, the passion, it's like, it's almost, I've covered from obviously pro sports, all four, main pro sports in America, including, well, then you include MLS also, but then from Power 5 Division 1 schools down to NAIA tiny schools. And I don't want to discredit anybody who plays at a Power 5, because there's passion there and there's energy and you want to be great. But I also think there's something to be said for the kids that play at NAIA schools or Division 3, Division 2, where maybe you're on a partial scholarship, maybe you're getting a couple $1,000s for books every semester, or you're, Division 3 and you're only getting maybe an academic scholarship, you're not getting an athletic scholarship. I think there's really something to be said for the kids that when they're not kids in college. That's also a big thing for me, but we can get into that later. For those people at those levels that love this game so, so, so much and want to continue to play, when they're monetarily sometimes not getting anything out of it, like that proves to me how much you love this game and how much you love being on this team and being a part of this program. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, when I get to watch those, that sometimes it almost doesn't register sometimes until like later, either after the game or, you know, when I'm driving home that night or something, and I'm just like, holy crap, like those people are working so hard. And yeah, maybe they want to go play pro if they can, but also like there's a lot of people that don't want to play professional sports after they graduate college. They wrote it out and they're done and they had a great time and that's it. And so yeah, it's always really almost kind of humbling in some ways to see all the different levels. And I really enjoy, especially my job right now and my job in Texoma, I got to see all of those from high school, again, NAIA, JUCO, Division 2, 3, and up to, you know, D1, Power 5. It's been really fun.
Yeah, I think especially with what I'm doing now, working for Prep Baseball Report, we do focus on the amateur athletes and mostly high school baseball players, and it's awesome just seeing these kids put everything, you know, pour everything they have into their sport, because these like especially high schoolers, those are the years they're gonna look back on at, you know, when they're getting married and their high school teammate is standing up at their wedding, and you know they get to reminisce on their state championship, or even like just a random game, you know, where they hit a walk-off single to whatever, you know,
right.
beat their crosstown rival, and that's, you know, being at the age of 26, that's where I'm like, man, cherish it because when they turn 26, like that's going to be what they're talking about when they're catching up or when they run into, you know, someone from their high school or whatever.
Yeah.
What advice can you give to, and we kind of touched on it earlier with, you know, what advice would you give to someone who, you know, wants to be either an aspiring reporter or wants to make a big move, but, you know, I'm sure you've taken a lot of life lessons from your college career, your internships, your professional career. What else can you offer? Because I think there's definitely so much in the world of media and what you do that, whether it's the work behind the scenes, you know, we've talked about it, the background, the research you have to do, you know, the work-life balance, like what else have you taken that you think we haven't touched on that you think is so important that you want others to apply to their lives, whether it's in, you know, professionally, athletics, any areas of their life?
The worst thing someone can tell you is no. And that's it. Like, the best thing, though, they can tell you is, yes, let's do it. Let's go for it. Or you're hired. Or let's go down to call. Like, I think I didn't really talk about this when we were talking about my internships and even when I applied for my first job, but I had a spreadsheet that I made with the name of the, you know, the team or the job, the city, all this stuff. And that list was 50 to 60 rows long. Like, I was applying for everything under the sun because A, I wanted just some kind of opportunity, but B, I know that when you cast a wide net, you're more likely to get a better like chance of what's in that net, right? So I kind of did a little bit of everything, and I had a lot of people not even email me back for an internship or a job, which is going to happen. But then, you know, I had a lot of people that were like, oh, you know, we already filled the spot, or we're looking for somebody who's maybe a little older with a little more experience. That's fine. I get it. I respect it. That's what you're looking for. Great. No problem. But then I also had a lot of people that were like, hey, we like your resume, you know, let's get on a call. And so I had a couple different interviews and that kind of stuff, and, or, you know, exploratory kind of calls. And then both years I had internships in the summer, I was able to pick which internship I wanted because I had a couple, and I think I had both years like 2 or 3 offers, which I was very grateful for and very lucky for. But that also can be translated to like, Tino, you just started a podcast. Did anybody tell you no when you started this? Like, or
Um, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, yeah. I probably tried to forget the no's. I think we all do, right? In
yeah.
life, we try to forget those as quickly as we can.
But somebody said yes, right? Like
Mhm.
somebody was like, "Yeah, I'll come on your podcast. Yeah, we can start this, whatever." And so I think that's always something that's really motivated me is that eventually someone is going to say yes to you. Somebody is going to take the chance, or somebody's going to say, "Yeah, you can come in and shadow me for a day and see what I do, and follow me around and ask some questions." That's so important. Like if you guys don't know what you're doing, or like don't know what you want to do, I just told somebody that the other day, go send an email and just say, "Hey, I don't really know what I want to do. I'm 22, whatever, however years old, and I just want to see what you do for a day. Is there an opportunity where I could come in and just kind of follow you around and pick your brain?" I would say 9 out of 10 times somebody's going to say yes. It's pretty, like, those things are very, very easy. So, yeah, I just really, I think too, if you have so much passion for something and you're so eager to be involved, people can read that, people can feel that energy, and they're going to want to try to help you or try to like make it work for you. So even like my Penguins internship, for example, I didn't have any experience working in professional sports. I didn't have any experience working in social media, but I think the other experience I did have and what I was looking for, plus with my personality and kind of my eagerness to work in that realm, those compilation of things got me into that position. And then that position got me to work, for DC United and all this kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I was really, I wasn't scared to ask, if that makes sense. Like, maybe I was nervous, again, that like first day of school nervous energy that I think is a really good thing. But, if somebody was like, "Hey, we've already filled the spot for the summer." Okay, that's fine. Thanks so much for letting me know. Move along to the next thing. So I want to encourage anybody, obviously have a bit of a plan and have kind of an idea of what you want. But the worst thing somebody's going to say to you is no. And the best thing they could possibly say is, "Hell yes, let's do it."
I couldn't agree more with everything you just said. And it starts with your immediate network. I think for me or for us, it could be someone we went to school with, our professors, a Spartan alum. With others, it might be a little tougher to find. Like if you don't know what you want yet, it might be tough to find that network. But I guarantee there's someone within your network that you can lean on and say, "Hey, can I shadow you? Hey, can we hop on a call?"
Yeah. Even also, sorry to interrupt, even if it's completely somebody you don't know, like social media, I feel like does get like Twitter gets a bad rep sometimes because it can be kind of toxic or whatever, certain sides of it can be. But I also feel like one of my best friends is a woman who she was working in Duluth, Minnesota. Now she's in Alabama. I've actually never met her in person. Shout out to Claudia. We just talk all the time, but we became friends because we both are women working in local TV, and we were kind of in the same like group of women on Twitter and on Facebook. And so I have a lot of friends I've made that way. A lot of them I've been able to meet in person. Claudia, I still have not met in person, but if you have somebody who kind of is in that network who you follow, send them a message and just say like, "Hey, you have a job. I know it." And you don't have to say, "I know it. We've never met," or anything like that. But just be like, I've been kind of watching from afar. I really enjoy your content. And this is something I'm trying to get into or something I'm interested in. Can we get on a call?" Or even if it's somebody who lives in your area and again, you want to shadow them, be like, "Hey, I've been, watching your content and I think it's really great. And it's something, I'm interested in. And I just want to pick your brain. Can I come in and, sit down with you? Can we go to coffee?" Like anything like that, obviously depending on the day if somebody's super busy, but like, if somebody asks me that, I'm going to find out a way to help them because whether it's me or just I'm giving them advice or some insight into what this world looks like, so they're better prepared. Again, proper planning prevents poor performance. Maybe they don't want to have a career where they're not physically and financially able to have a career where their first year they're making $25,000. A lot of people can't do that. That's okay, but they should be prepared and know that in advance before they're applying for these jobs and doing all that kind of stuff. So I think the more knowledge you can have beforehand, like before you're making those big decisions, is what's going to make the best situation for you in the long run.
No doubt. That was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I end with one last question. Yeah, this is my favorite question, I think, and it's my favorite to listen to the answers. But what makes your story so unique, but also so relatable for someone who wants to? Because, like, think about it. You grew up, and you've seen reporters, anchors that you've admired, that you wanted to create your own path, but there was some of that you wanted in your life as well. And I think someone is that you don't know is looking up at you, is someone in West Michigan or someone in Texoma that saw you on TV or saw you, came across your social media pages, that wants to be just like Remi Monaghan. Like, what makes your story unique, but also so, like, relatable that, hey, you can do this too?
Yeah, I think just the ability to kind of be relatable. I don't know if that makes sense, but like I there's nothing really different about me or you or somebody who wants to have a job like what I do. I was a kid who grew up and played a lot of sports and was around sports a lot. And so and I think, I don't know if I said this earlier, but originally I wanted to just be a news reporter because my family had the news on, and like, again, at that time, you would watch in the morning before you went to school. And then, you would come home, watch the 6 o'clock news and whatever. So I originally wanted to be in news, but then it kind of shifted to sports. But I think it's nice in the sense that it's not an exclusive community. Like, anybody can turn the TV on or go on YouTube and watch highlights of a football game or a baseball game or whatever you're interested in. And so, did my training play a role? Like, in my education play a role into how I got to where I am? Yeah, because you have to have a bachelor's degree and, whatever else. But that's not to say that somebody who goes to a smaller college or is from a different part of the country or whatever that looks like couldn't have the same job as me. I think the difference is that, I took the chance to move across the country and was able to do that. I don't know, so maybe there are people who aren't either financially able to do it, or there's situations in their family where maybe a family member is sick or they need to stay closer to home, or maybe that's just what they want for themselves. That's perfectly okay. But again, I probably, there's a lot of people out there who can talk better about sports than I can. They just somehow pay me to do it. I don't know. But it's not rocket science. It's not, brain surgery or anything like that. So I feel like if you're really interested in it, it's very accessible to do. I think I just was really willing to work my ass off in college, and I think that really, really helped me. And I will say, this is also part of my personality. Like, I didn't party a lot in college. I would go to parties here and there, but I wasn't going out every single week, or especially at Michigan State, even Mondays and Sundays, you could go out every day if you wanted. But that's not, again, really my style. But I also, I think my freshman year I had season tickets for football, but after freshman year, I think I went to 3 football games as a fan. All the other games I was working. But that was a decision I made because I knew that working for BTN or, freelancing for Fox Sports when they were in town for a game, that was going to benefit me, and that was what I wanted. So maybe that's what makes my situation a little unique, is that I put myself in those positions to get that experience and make those connections. But it doesn't mean that anybody else from any other place in the world even could not do what I'm doing also.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are going to take, I mean, even myself, a lot from this conversation, from just how to balance social media to just the courage to pick up and move if you really want to do that, or just weighing some big decisions in life. And it's cool to see. It's awesome to see what you've done. And I'm super pumped for you. And hopefully we stay connected along the way. So thank you for taking the time. I know how busy you are.
Yeah, no, thanks, Tino. And it's been fun to see your journey too. And just like, I know we have so many buddies that like we went to school with, and a couple of them, like I see Turk, sometimes just because he works out here near me. But, being able to stay connected with our fellow Spartans has been so much fun. And I'm, so excited for where this podcast is going to go for you. And just because I know we're still early days, but I like the format. I like what you're doing. And I think it's just a really great way to tell stories, which is ultimately what we are. We're just storytellers.